Hey guys, welcome back to Jessin Reads Romance. I'm Jessin and today I'm going over my October TBR. So as always, I'm going to start off with the books that we're reviewing for the podcast. So we have 4 books for the month of October. The first one is Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks. And all these are going to be rereads for me because I've already read them before and you might have heard me talk about them in my previous weekly wrap-ups. But I love Never Seduce a Scot. It's an amazing historical romance with the swooniest Highland hero, he's amazing, and a heroine who is deaf, but she's kept that fact a secret after her injury and everybody else thinks that she's just like touched in the head. She's not all there because of extenuating circumstances, which really furthers the plot along, and I love this book so much. The next one is Captive of the HORDE King by ZOEY DRAVEN, and this is an alien romance. It has a lot of Dothraki vibes because they are like nomadic hordes that travel across the land, and in the first book the hero, who is like the Vorakar of a horde, which is basically he's like a horde king, he actually takes this girl captive because her brother burns the fields to try to make their soil more fertile, and that's like against the rules of this planet that humans are now like refugees on. And when the horde comes to mete out some punishment, the heroine Luna offers herself up in exchange, so now she's a captive, but not for long. It's amazing. I love this series so much and I'm so excited to see what Juliet thinks about it. The next one is Unhinged by Onley James, and I discovered this book last month. This author is amazing. She writes romance, and this is a serial killer romance. This series is about a group of boys who were adopted by this Dr. Thomas, and he was taking in boys who showed like signs of psychopathy, and he was having them channel all of that into killing for good. So kind of like Dexter, like he's honing their abilities. He's not trying to stifle them, but they're going to rid the world of the scum who escaped the justice system. And this romance is between our serial killer, who is all grown up, and the son of one of his past victims. And it is delicious. It is so sweet. I know I'm like saying like a sweet serial killer romance, but it is, and I just love it, so I thought it was perfect for October, so we put it on the podcast. The next one is A Kiss of Fate by Mary Jo Putney. This is a historical romance with some fantasy elements, and I actually picked up this book years and years and years ago in a library sale when I was very young with Juliet. I haven't read it in the longest time, but I wanted all the books to kind of fit like an October mood, and this one, since it had like paranormal elements, I thought it was a great historical romance to incorporate. There is kind of like this secret society. I think they're called the Guardians. Again, I haven't read it in so long, so I'm excited to reread it, see if I have the same feelings about it. And they have powers. They are members of the British aristocracy, and they secretly have powers, and they influence history. The hero takes one look at the heroine, this very, very young widow. She was previously married to a much older man, and he's like, I have to have her. And they have like intense passion. And once they get married, they discover something about the heroine, because she always thought that she had no powers to speak of, that she was just kind of like a dud. But it turns out she's not, and she has some interesting powers. So it's gonna be fun to revisit this old favorite. All right, next for my book club picks, we have In Bed with a Highlander by Maya Banks, and this is actually a reread for me. I've already read this book. I did like it, not as much as Never Seduce a Scot, and I definitely want to continue with that series, but the Rake Appreciation Society is going to be reviewing that for October, so I'm excited to revisit that. And then the Historical Hellions are doing The Bride by Julie Garwood. I've also read this book before, and I really loved it. I know some people have problems with the hero because there are some slight non-consensual scenes. It does happen in the 1100s. It is sort of an arranged marriage situation, so the heroine's not totally on board with this marriage, but I love it. I love the way that Julie Garwood writes, and I haven't read this book in a while, so I'm excited to reread it again. All right, let's run through the arcs that I have. Now, full disclosure, for September, I only read one of my 3 arcs because limited time and I wanted to mood read, so I don't know if I'm gonna get to these arcs, which I stopped requesting arcs at this point since school is really taking over my life. I just cannot commit to having these arcs read on time, so I stopped requesting arcs. I'm just like, nope, not doing any more arcs. But anyway, the ones that I do have, I do want to read these, so it's really sad. So I'm going to try really hard to read them. The first one is The Brightest Star in Paris by Diana Biller. I read last year The Widow of Rose House, and I absolutely loved it. I thought that it was such an interesting type of historical romance, so I do have high expectations for The Brightest Star in Paris. We're going to continue with the siblings and of the hero from the first one, and I'm just really excited about it. Then we have All the Feels by Olivia Dade. I've only read one book by Olivia Dade so far, which is, spoiler alert, it was not my favorite. I had a lot of issues with that one, but Olivia Dade is known for writing plus-size heroines, and I want to give her another shot, and this one just looks so cute. I hope that I like this one better than the first one. The next one is The Lady Gets Lucky by Joanna Shoup. This is another arc that I was really excited about. This cover, let's talk about this cover. I love this cover so much. It is beautiful. It reminds me of the step back. I want to say that it's the step back for Untamed by Elizabeth Lowell. I'm not quite sure, but I think that that's the one. And I love it. The sheets, the sensuality. I just love like really sexy historical romance covers. And this one's just doing a lot for me. Again, I read the first book in this series last year and I didn't really love it. It was one of the books that I probably liked the least by Joanna Shoup, but I still wanted to continue with the series because there's just a lot of women that are introduced in the first book, and you know that they're going to get HEAs. So again, I really do want to read this one. We'll just see. Okay, now for a few new releases. I really want to read Bad Alpha by Catherine Moon. Catherine Moon writes a lot of reverse harem romances, and I really, truly loved The Lady of Rooksgrave Manor and also Lola and the Millionaires Part 1 and Part 2. It's like just a duet, and I just really loved it, and it's coming out early in October, I think the 8th, and I believe that this one's part of the Sweet Verse, so like Omega Verse, and I'm just really excited about it because Lola and the Millionaires was also part of the Sweet Verse, and those were amazing. Next is There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. This is releasing on the 20th, and another serial killer romance. This is a duet, and I've gone on record saying that most of the time I don't like duets, but Sophie Lark is one of the authors that I really love, and I trust that there's a reason why there needs to be a duet for this. And if any kind of romance needs a duet, I mean a serial killer romance to kind of flesh it all out, yeah, I believe that that might need a duet, so I am excited about that. Then we have Filthy Secret by Serena Ackroyd. There's so much that can go down in this book. If you have not read the Filthy Fecker series, also known as the 5-Point Mob series, it is amazing. It's one of my favorite mafia romance series, and this is actually revisiting a previous couple. I don't always like when authors do this, but there is a very good reason why this couple needs to be revisited. If you read the first book, Filthy, you will already know. It's the same couple from the first book. And I'm really nervous for Aoife and Finn. I'm so scared for them. I know that Serena Ackroyd's going to give them an HA, but like still, I'm nervous. So that's going to be out on the 21st, I believe. Then we have Archangel's Light by Nalini Singh. This is like book 13 or 14. I'm gonna have to double check, in the Guild Hunter series. So it's a very long running series. She tends to do that. And there's angels and vampires and guild hunters who like go hunt down vampires who've like escaped their masters or whatever. But this book is between two angels, and they have been simmering in the background, and it's going to be a friends to lovers romance. So I've been waiting a very long time for these two to get together. They have been teased. They have been teased a lot. And this cover is so beautiful. Absolutely, hands down, my favorite cover of this entire series. It is phenomenal. Like, I want to frame it. It's just gorgeous. Okay, I love it. So I can't wait for my Bluebell and my sparkles, and they're gonna be happily ever aftering soon. I'm so excited. And I think that comes out at the end of October, the 26th. Okay. I've already mentioned I am pressed for time. I don't have a lot of time to read right now, which really sucks. I am a huge mood reader, and even though I'm listing all these books that I want to read for October, that does not mean that I'm going to get to all of them, or I'm not going to try to make myself read them. I'm going to read whatever I feel like reading, since I do have limited time. So I'm just going to gravitate towards whatever's like calling to me. But these are the books that I'm going to probably pull from unless there's something else on Instagram that like comes on my radar and I'm like, ooh, I have to have that. We all know that happens. Promises and Pomegranates by Sav R. Miller. This is a new author to me. And I believe that this is contemporary mafia romance, and it's a Hades and Persephone retelling. I have high hopes for this one. I always have high hopes for Hades and Persephone romances. The cover is absolutely gorgeous too. I'm very tempted to buy this book before I read it, like physically. I gotta pull back on that though. Gotta pull back. Then I want to read some Serena Ackroyds that are actually paranormal. And the one that I'm looking at is Ghost Whisperer, and it's part of the Jace Ventura series. And I believe that they're not very long books, and there's 3 books in the series. So I want to pick up a ghost romance because there's not a lot that I have read. The ones that I have read, I believe, are all written by Cressley Cole in her Immortals After Dark series, and I really love them. Then I have Pushing Up Posies by Eve Longley, and I've read a couple books by Eve Longley. I think the first one I read was A Demon and His Witch, and I really liked it. She has like good humor, and this is a Grim Reaper romance. So I really wanted to read some different ones because I tend to gravitate towards vampires and werewolves when it comes to paranormal romance or urban fantasy or whatever. But I wanted to kind of like branch out and discover new kinds of paranormal romances, so I thought that this one would be a good fit. Then I have Hollow Heathens by Nicole Fiorina, and I've been seeing this book everywhere, and I have not looked into it. I just really love the cover, and I really love the title, and I don't know why I'm being finicky about this book. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know I get this way about certain books. I just want to go in like totally not knowing anything and just experience it. So I think Jen plans on reading this soon. This might be one of the first ones I pick up in October besides my podcast books. Then I kind of want to branch out with motorcycle romances. It's one of my least favorite tropes in romance. I don't like motorcycle romances. There are very few that I love. One is written by Devney Perry, and she's rebranding that whole series. It's going to be called the Clifton Forge series if you haven't seen like her new covers. The first one will be called Steel King, and I love that series so much. She just recently completed it and now is recovering it. So that one and some of Gianna Darling's Fallen Men series tend to be my favorite motorcycle romance, and some Kristen Ashley's, but I want to give more a try. I've seen Jessica Gadziala, I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right, around a bunch. She's been recommended to me a couple of times, so I think I'm going to pick up Rain, which is the first book in her Henchman MC series, and I do believe that she has a next-gen spinoff from that she's currently writing in. So I want to start from the beginning. Then, following some fantasy themes, I want to read Viper by Naomi Lucas. This has been on my radar for a while, and hopefully I'll finally get to that one. There's also Ensnared by Tiffany Roberts, which I know a lot of people have read already. I really like monster romances. I know that not everybody likes them, but I enjoy them quite a bit. I also either want to read Master of Salt and Bones by Carrie Lake or The Isle of Sin and Shadows, I believe it's called. And both of these, I think, have a very gothic vibe to them. I've been meaning to read Master of Salt and Bones, and I remember that Jen really did like that and thought it was very, very interesting. And Tara from Read My Lips podcast sent that to me. I think that might be the one that I'll read, but I am also intrigued by The Isle of Sin and Shadows because it's set in Louisiana, I believe, and I'm from Louisiana, so I kind of want to see what happens with that. The next two that I have aren't technically romance. They're more fantasy with some romantic elements thrown in. I want to read The HARP King by Juliette Maurier. I love Juliette Maurier's writing. I've been reading her since I was 14, and I have not been keeping up with her more recent releases. I need to go back and go read like the Blackthorn series as well. But The HARP Kings is the one that she's most recently written, and I have the first and the second book on audio, so I'm going to try to listen to that one. She also has really beautiful covers. Like, I'm always in love with her covers. And then The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I've already read this book, but it's been a while. I read it when it first came out, and the trilogy is completed. And I know that Crystal really loves this series, so I want to reread The Bear and the Nightingale and then listen to the rest of the books and catch up with that. So I'm going to try to do that in the month of October, or for the rest of the year, basically, if I don't get to it. It's just one of my personal goals that I want to accomplish is read that series. There's also a ton of other books that I have written down. There's no way that I'm going to read these books, but I thought I'd throw them out there for you. Soul and Loon by Catherine Moon. It's a duet. There's Soul and Loon Part 1 and Part 2. I would like to read that. I also want to read Kiss of the Blood Prince by Alessa Thorne, The Orc Wife by S.J. Sanders, The Kiss of Death by Erin Hadley. I believe that this is a demon book. I love this cover so much, so this one's also possibly a priority. Shifter Wars by Kelly St. Clair. Big Bad Wolf by JENIKA Snow. Also Ember by JENIKA Snow. That's a dragon shifter romance. Run and Hide by Beatrix Hollow. Moon Touch by Elizabeth Briggs. Tamed by the Troll by Tracy Lauren. The Nightmare by Regine Abel. Kate and the Kraken by Honey Phillips. A Fate of Wrath and Flames by K.A. Tucker. I'm kind of nervous about that one. I don't know what to expect from K.A. Tucker because I've only read her contemporary, so I'm not sure what she would be like for like fantasy. Fable and Other Lies by Claire Contreras. I've been having this book for a while. I bought it because the cover was really pretty, so I feel like I should read that sometime soon, but we'll see how I feel. And that's about it. So that's a lot of books that are just in like my pool that I can pick from in October. And like I said, mood reader, there's no guarantee that these are the books that I will always pick from. It could be something completely new that pops up and catches my interest, and I just kind of like throw this whole TBR out the window. Hopefully not. I'd like to stick to some of these. I mean, it's a little overboard, the amount of books that I have written down, but I love spooky season. It just like makes me super excited to read all these fantasy and paranormal romances. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I have some free time to read a good chunk. Anyway, you guys let me know what you're excited to read for spooky season, and if there are any new releases I should be looking out for. Also, I would like to know if you're going to participate in any readathons. I don't think I'll be participating in them this month just because I'm going to be so busy, but I am going to try to like casually fill out some prompts. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe to get notified of any future videos that I do. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, life's better with little HEA. Bye guys!